For our regular listeners, you're probably wondering where we've been. We haven't recorded an episode in quite some time, and this episode is to explain all the reasons why. We've had a lot of change in our careers as of late. Derek and I have made some major changes within our roles and what we're doing within this industry from a brokerage and broker perspective. And so today we're really just going to touch on all of that. We've had the pleasure to take ownership in the brokerage, the parent brokerage that Thrive Mortgage has hung their license at for many years. And part of that process was a major change in our involvement from a time perspective and our responsibilities. And we needed to ensure that the Thrive Mortgage Company was well looked after. And part of what that means is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to get into all of that shortly here. So Derek is going to explain a little bit about what this connection means from our brokerage perspective to Thrive Mortgage. The brokerage that Thrive is licensed with and partnered with is a Better Way Mortgage Group, which is a franchise of the Dominion Lending Center network. And with that, there's a bunch of reasons why, and it may not make a whole lot of sense to some of our listeners, but we're going to dumb it down the best we can and really just get into all of that and what's to come with Thrive and some of the key changes that I think are going to be very interesting to our listeners and honestly bring a lot of value to our clients.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. I mean, these are really exciting times. It's been a crazy few months. There's been a ton of change, as Dean mentioned. I'm really proud to introduce Cam McMillan and Nick Theobald as the new primary owners of Thrive Mortgage. To give you a little bit of background, as Dean mentioned, we are running a Better Way Mortgage Group. And for context, if you think about a RE/MAX model for realtors, it's similar in the mortgage industry. Within a Better Way, there's about 450 mortgage brokers through BC, Alberta, and Ontario. And we've had the pleasure of working with Cam and Nick for quite some time, running their own business prior. And a big piece of why we went into the brokerage side of our industry is actually to train agents, to support them in their business, to allow brokers to kind of get to the next level, achieve their goals. And in working with Cam and Nick for quite some time, as I mentioned, we just had an instant connection. There's not a lot of folks that could manage and operate an extremely high producing team, manage people, and do it the right way. And this is where the Thrive transition actually stemmed. So as of a couple months ago, as I mentioned, Cam and Nick have taken over Thrive, and Dean and I continue to work closely with Thrive, Cam, Nick, and all the existing team on process, marketing, growth, strategy. And it's really, really exciting for us, especially given the fact that we get to stay extremely close to the business because, as everyone knows that's ever worked with us, our blood, sweat, and tears went into Thrive for the last 8 years. And it's been a tough piece to make this change, to be blunt with you. So yeah, keeping close contact and having a strong partnership like this is very, very valuable to us. And we're excited for what's to come.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. We have, it's your baby. We're just adopted it.
Yeah, and again, that's just like the comfort and that we get from this partnership and the fact that we know you're going to take care of it just, the same way we did, if not better. And part of that is just getting to better understand why you made that decision and who the two of you are. So, I'll pass the floor off to Cam and Nick to do an introduction.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. So as you guys know, we're definitely very excited to be here. It's been a very cool experience for both Nick and I over these last few months. It's been a bit of a whirlwind since taking ownership on April 1st, but we're just going to put the time in to understand the business and the backstory and kind of get to know all the clients, all the partners and everything there. Figure we dive a bit into kind of our backstory with how we ended up in this position. So if I rewind kind of my career a little bit, I got started in the mortgage space probably about 10 years ago. I came out of university, wasn't sure what I really wanted to do and got into private equity lending. So spent a few years there and really kind of developed a passion for mortgages, helping people navigate their financial situation and really understand and help them achieve those home ownership goals. From there, my mindset kind of shifted to always wanting to own my own brokerage one day. With that, I was very well versed in the private space, the alternative space, but I was kind of lacking the experience in traditional bank mortgages. So what I did is I actually decided to leave the private brokerage I was with and joined one of the big banks as a mobile mortgage specialist. I spent about 4.5, 5 years there just truly understanding lending, traditional bank mortgages, what goes into it, how to properly sell them, how to understand it, and all that fun stuff. From there, use that time to kind of sharpen those tools and build that knowledge to really, really understand it so I could succeed in it.
Yeah, Cam summed it up really nicely there. And to give you a little bit of background on my side, it's similar, but I have a bit of a unique background in the sense that, I always like to joke it was fitness to finance. I came from a SFU degree in health sciences and kinesiology, and like any kid, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go into that industry. So I'll tell you right now, I probably disappointed my mom a little bit in the sense that I'm not a chiropractor or a doctor, but you know what? I came into the opportunity, and that's actually where I met Cam, was in private equity. So we worked at a private lending company, and we specialized in kind of alternative financing solutions and finding that solution for somebody that couldn't get approval from the bank. So we were kind of thrown headfirst into the toughest lending situations, and I think it really built a lot of character, and it built a lot of experience with us as well, because we had that background of hard, tough conversations and hard lending solutions right away. So then that's kind of where we met. And it's also where we shifted our paths, in the sense that Cam did, as you mentioned, went right to A lending and right to bank lending. I took a different passion and a different approach, and then I went actually into the lending and investment side of the private mortgage industry. And I looked at I was actually one of the fund managers of one of the largest mortgage investment corporations in Canada. So we specialized in private financing, and we would provide the funds and the investment for those loans so that they could get funded. So I did that for a number of years, and grew to be a senior portfolio manager with them. And at the end of the day, I kept coming back to, I want to be client facing again. I know this industry so well. I want to be client facing again, and I want to work on helping everyone, not just private clients, right? So what we did was I called Cam, and at the end of the day, he was like, well, come to Scotiabank. We sat down, we had lunch, and we said, you know what, let's sit down, let's look at an opportunity, and let's look at a path to grow our own brokerage. We know the private, we have experience, and we've built that tool in the toolbox for A lending and bank finance. Let's put it all together and be a one-stop shop where any client comes, we're going to find a solution for them. We're going to find the best solution for them.
I really love the background, and thanks for sharing all that. And, just to speak to my own experience getting into this industry, I was in construction before I had a mortgage, but I didn't really know what it was or how it functioned. And, I came in and I worked with Dean, and it took a long time to get the level of experience that you really need to be like a high functioning, proper mortgage broker, right? Especially in an industry that is constantly changing. Every week, every month, there's new lenders are leaving, there's new policies. Like there's a lot of knowledge that you have to properly serve your clients. So I love that you guys touched on that before you even got into the broker space. It's almost like you guys were building up, knowing what your path was going to be, which a lot of people don't take that approach for many different reasons, myself included. But again, this was just another reason that we knew that you guys would be an amazing fit for Thrive, because over the years, again, if clients are listening, we do construction, we do private, we do alternative, we do we do reverse, right? And as a broker nowadays, you really have to understand everything to serve your client properly, right? To do by them right.
Yeah, you guys definitely built a university degree in finance before going and doing this as a full-time brokerage gig, which it is rare. There's so many stories of people being mobile specialists at a bank and then eventually transitioning, but for most of those folks, at least the ones that we know, that wasn't the end goal. It just happened to be the opportunity and the pivot. So going into that from day one, going through that journey and making that transition, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And that's the thing. We knew that bank lending aspect was a training ground and something so that we could build experience and be the best in that space, with the expectation and the reality that we always wanted. We knew what our end goal was, and it was to open up our own brokerage, which we eventually did, and then partnered with you guys and Thrive.
I think it would be worth mentioning too. You brought up Scotiabank. Just, Scotia is one of the biggest lending companies in the country, and without a doubt, hands down, they are and always have been Thrive's, number one conventional lender from a volume perspective. So even just the fact that you have so much in-depth knowledge of their policies before coming over, they're the top lender in the broker channel by a landslide, right? So that piece alone gives you such an upper hand coming into this side of the business.
Yeah, no, that is something that we were really excited about. And it's funny, when I was introduced to our BRM there, he immediately was like, wait, you came from Scotiabank? This is going to make my life a whole lot easier. And sure enough, right now, now, like even sometimes I'll correct him and say, actually, you can do this. So it's been a really good partnership with the Scotiabank team, and we're obviously very happy to continue working with them, and they're still our number one partners today. They've got some really good products and specialty products, which if we keep this episodes going, we'll definitely dive into those at a later date.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a good point to transition in regards to like why Thrive and, why ultimately taking that leap. I mean, Cam, you mentioned a little bit about that, but like what was ultimately the decision, decisive decision to do?
So basically, when Cam and I have talked about this a lot of the time, and, we always see that, insert name mortgages. And we always wondered why someone would brand a mortgage company with their own name. Where's the scalability there? Where's the team aspect? What happens if you want to take a vacation or you want to retire one day? Like, you just turn it off? Is that the only option? So we wanted to find a solution where we could have that team-based scalable mortgage model where we could kind of shake up the industry. And when we started our company and we worked from there and partnered with you guys, to be honest with you, we kind of took your playbook and we looked at Thrive and what you guys built. We built our website scrolling through your website and looking at your guys' content. So we were like, hey, you know what? This is an opportunity where we want to have that approach where brokers want to join our team for our expertise, but also having a team and support where they can feel welcomed and they can feel supported, where if they do need to take some time off, they have coverage because they're following the same process. Or if, they want to eventually leave, they know that their clients would be taken care of, and client care would be an utmost priority for us because everyone's following the same process.
Yeah, I mean, that you just mentioned that, like the process, the people, they're everything when it comes to building any company in any industry. And we took a lot of pride in just the fact that we were surrounded by what we thought, and we still think to this day, is some of the best people in the business in those specific roles, especially when you look at underwriting and strategy. And then you mentioned client care. Those folks are still there. And they're more committed than ever to the longevity and the goals of Thrive Mortgage. And I think that's a huge piece for any client that's either worked with Thrive in the past or is thinking about working with Thrive. Is like, you really do have some of the most elite people in those positions touching your file. And again, if you're an existing client, the familiarity to your situation is top of mind at all times.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, Nick, the process, the brand, the system, like the way that Thrive was built and managed to this day was that any client could come in and talk to any person on the team and get the same process, right? Like the same email updates, the same communication strengths. That's one of the biggest challenges when you're maybe a single broker, or like you said, it's XYZ broker company. People want to work with Dean and only Dean. And when it's Derek, it's like you feel like you got passed off. So like we've really tried to empower the team and it worked. Like it really truly worked, right? Like clients would come back that worked with me 3 years ago and they work with someone else and they're happy and they're writing Google reviews and I'm not even involved, right? Like that's really, in my opinion, like at that point you have a good business, right? And you have a good process and you have people coming back, not necessarily looking for one person, right?
So part of the why Thrive piece was like exactly as you said it, was the team and the process. So when obviously we made the decision to kind of move forward with Thrive, is when Nick and I sat down and talked about it, it was like keeping everything the exact same as how it was. It was a functioning business. It had a great system, a great process, and really a great team behind it. So we came in, like one of our biggest priorities was keeping those existing staff around and keeping those employees that everyone knows, that everyone trusts. And like you said, being able to jump into a file that someone else is working on and know exactly where it's at. So the client's not forced to repeat themselves for the 7th time because they're now talking to a 7th person. So one thing that's truly amazed us is the detail that Thrive went into and the detail that Thrive has to track every single stage, every single milestone, and every single process of that client journey. So when that someone else has to jump into it, they know exactly where it's at. Yeah. So going forward, definitely keeping the same staff, and to all our lending partners, we still have our same rockstar underwriter with Kim dealing with all the lenders. So we're really, really happy there, and having Melanie and Nicole still involved has been quite nice to have.
So now, here we are, you're fully in the business. You're running it like we always ran it. of course there was that learning curve, but you guys picked it up really quickly, and the team, of course, helped with that. So now, looking at where we are today, what in your vision is going to remain the same, and what are some, things that we can look forward to going forward with Thrive Mortgage?
Yeah. So I'll jump on kind of the things that are going to remain the same. I think the biggest thing that we want to hammer home is that at Thrive Mortgage, we're a lending company. But of course, there's plenty of lending companies. What we want to focus on is education. We want to focus on the educational aspect for our clients. You get a mortgage from a mortgage broker, and you get your house, and then you just sigh of relief. That was stressful, and what do I do next? And I guess I call someone in 5 years. We want to educate you along the process as to why we're using a different lender, or why we're choosing a certain lender, why this product might be beneficial for you in your current situation. A fixed term, a variable term, a home equity line of credit for flexibility, and giving that education piece along the whole process. We've had so much success with our clients saying, wow, I actually understand this now. And I really want to, we've even actually had someone reach out to us saying that I had my mortgage with you guys, and now I'm getting my mortgage broker license, and I want to become a broker. So, that says something about the educational piece of what they're learning when they're working with us. And it's definitely something that we're really proud of.
Well, I mean, it's something that everyone jokes about, right? You should learn about mortgages in school. We don't, right? Even through the mortgage broker course, you don't learn about mortgages. So, knowing that you can not only buy your dream home or renew your mortgage strategically, but walking away with that with education and understanding what's next, right? If you're in a 3-year term, that we're going to be touching base with you at least, twice a year with updates. We're looking for strategies as to how we can save you money. It's huge. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And then again, from a perspective of some staying the same as well, we also want to show our community and our listeners and our existing client base and partners that, we still appreciate you. So we are still planning all of our usual customer appreciation events. We've got the 7th annual pumpkin event coming in October, so stay tuned for information on that. And we're always thinking and planning additional events that we want to work on. Community engagement and community involvement is really important to us as well. We have we just recently sponsored a golf tournament for a local school. And then we also were in Colona doing the wine country half marathon event where we were handing out freezies at the finish line. So wherever we can kind of get the Thrive brand and even just support our local communities is really important to us.
I know we're going to touch on just Colona and what that means for Thrive and what's to come. But like one piece I just wanted to hammer home is, the way that Thrive Mortgage has always looked at the client relationship is it truly is a client for life. And it's not just a transaction and then chat with you in 5 years. And, for any of our clients that are listening to this episode, like the name Nicole would definitely ring a bell. And the fact that, we're reaching out every year to make sure, everything is still the same, or has there been any changes in your situation? Should we be looking at, just a simple annual review type touch point on where you're at and where can we add more value to, building wealth and staying on top of the biggest debt that you'll ever have in your life. And, just from that piece alone, I would assume that's only going to be, continued and taken to the next level.
Yeah, 100%. And on that exact point, like our plan is to kind of keep the momentum that Thrive built, as well as double down on that educational piece. We really want clients coming out of that initial mortgage experience understanding more than just what their rate is and what their payment is. Yeah. Although that seems to be the most important part these days, there's a lot more that goes into the mortgage behind the scenes. So we would really like to take pride in actually educating the client from start to finish, what every single document means, all the prepayment flexibility that they're going to have, what this mortgage could actually do for them, not just save them potentially $5 or $10 a month on a payment. There's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah.
And to add to that piece as well, like most mortgage brokers are simple that they're brokers, whereas we treat Thrive as a full functioning business. So we have specialized individuals in each role. So like you said, Nicole, for example, she is absolutely our specialist with making sure our clients are taken care of. Our clients know her and they know that she's going to be reaching out and making sure that payment on their first month went smoothly. They don't have any questions. After a year, they don't need anything else, right? They're waiting for their renewal, or maybe they need some help. They need to consolidate some debt, or they're looking to move and they want to have some advice as to what to do from there. We have specialized underwriters. We have specialized associates that are specialized in working on document collection for different institutions and different banks. We're actively bringing on good team members that fit the culture, but also are an integral part of growing our business to where we want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's music definitely to our ears, and anyone that's worked with Thrive, that's exactly what you would want to hear. And again, like, part of the uniqueness of this business is it's not a common way to build a business in this industry in Canada, but it is in the States. And, regardless of all the turmoil that's gone on between those two countries, this past couple of months, they do things better in certain aspects, and that's ultimately how we built this business. And it's just, again, music to our ears that it's just going to continue and only get better. Nick, you mentioned just like the community events, the pumpkin event, 7th annual pumpkin event. That is certainly something I know many folks are going to be very happy to hear, because, I can't state how many times the clients come up to us and, they have 6 years of pictures with their kids, and that I've had many people come up to me and say, like, this is the first pumpkin my kid ever got, was like at your event. So it's a cool tradition that we've always had a lot of fun attending, and I'm very we'll certainly be attending that one as well. See you there. Yeah, we'll certainly be there. And rain or shine, those things are always just the greatest time, and it's a great opportunity to connect. So looking forward to what more is to come in that space when it comes to events and just giving back. You mentioned the Colona Marathon as one of those events, or the half marathon, sorry, and that's a big piece of, from a change perspective, of what Thrive can expect, is there's a presence in Kelowna. Cam, you're in Kelowna, you're living there. Maybe you can share more about what does that mean and what does that look like?
Yeah, so I've been, I grew up in the Lower Mainland. I grew up in Langley, lived there most of my life. I've been actually up in Kelowna for about 6 years now. So that was an exciting piece with this acquisition of Thrive, is being able to grow the Okanagan market. Like Thrive, we're licensed in BC, we're licensed in Alberta. We're able to help most of our clients remotely. But a big thing for us is being able to engage with clients, encourage clients to stop by and say hi, and actually be more face-to-face with clients whenever we can. So we do have an office in Kelowna now. We've been there. Myself, I've been in there for about a year now, but obviously just taking ownership of Thrive on April 1st. So Thrive officially has an office in Kelowna, and we're going to continue to grow that market and push that market as much as we can.
Yeah. And that was actually even, to add to that, that's actually even part of the reason why Cam and I partnered together. When we were in the bank, at the end of the day, it's a competitive industry. So, are we going to be fighting over the same realtors and the same leads? So at the time at the bank, he was in Kelowna, I was in the Lower Mainland here in Langley. So we weren't fighting over the same partners. We weren't fighting over the same leads. So we were just helping each other and trying to grow each other's businesses with the end goal of eventually partnering up. So with him having his roots and his boots on the ground in Kelowna gives us that opportunity to just have a bigger, widespread market.
I think it's important to state just like the importance of having presence there, and like where this industry's gone in the last 15 years since I got into it is it's just increasingly become more virtual, more remote, especially with COVID. But now with like AI and everything advancing, it's almost like we're going back in time in a sense where clients are looking to know you're real. You're actually a real person. You're not a robot, spitting out whatever the algorithm wants strategically to spit back out to that client. The ability to actually walk into an office and know you're real, the ability to drop off actual documents in person, just having that face-to-face support. I think I'm already seeing it kind of revert back to that, where COVID just got us so far away from that. Maybe you could just touch on like your availability and like how you're going to be, make sure you have that presence for your clients.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, COVID really shook up the industry, where if we used to meet 50, 60% of our clients in person, it dropped down to like 1% of our clients. So it really kind of shook up the industry, and a lot for the better and a little bit for the worse, I would say, as well. As we've kind of come out of it, again, people just adapted and got used to doing everything remotely. So it kind of lost that personal connection. And as we see with the advancements of AI and everything going on, it's hard to know if you're talking to a real person half the time. So with that, having that exposure and having that additional office, we really are trying to get back to that, like in person, actually meet clients to face whenever we can, just to have that personal touch and personal connection. I find you learn a lot more from someone sitting across the table from them when you're just talking on the phone. So we've really kind of enjoyed that and being able to do that and kind of continue to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And it's things are changing so much from a tech perspective, but it's just interesting to kind of start to see those trends kind of revert in some areas. the one thing, like, we're on this podcast today, we're talking about, what's to come, what's occurred, but largely this podcast, the format has always been education of some component. There's always been something that we're trying to help our clients, help our realtors, help anyone in the industry better understand when it comes to mortgage financing. And our social media was always a big driver of the social media content. And I know you have big plans for that. There's been so much change in the industry, even in the last 18 months. Maybe, Nick, you can kind of just touch on what's that going to look like going forward, and yeah, what's to come.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's no secret that the content's old, and we have been a bit silent lately with the transition of ownership and everything like that. So we definitely we're planning on kind of doing a full revamp of our social media and focusing on that educational background and that educational piece, because we have that experience, and why are we just holding it in? We should share it, right? Even actually, I've been doing I do planning 10 classes in grade 10 classes in high school, teaching them about credit and mortgages every year. And I just wanted to be able to give that back because I never had that. So this platform is going to be a really good opportunity for us to kind of set aside the stigmas on private lending, explain, maybe what private lending is and what it can do for the good, as well as, maybe why a client couldn't qualify and the opportunity and the roadmap to get them back to A lending or a big bank, and give them that opportunity and that expertise from us to be able to get there. So you're gonna see a lot more of us and expect more things to come, and you'll see a lot more opportunity for education. And if anybody has any recommendations, let us know, and we'll happily touch on those topics.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a big piece. I'm glad you mentioned that. Just like the feedback, is always wanted, good or bad, but especially when it comes to content, if there's certain areas that you're looking for more, education on, more support, like I know we've always been all ears. I know you guys are the same way. So certainly leave a comment, shoot us a note, whatever it is, like we'll touch on anything you want. And, with that, we're very much excited and looking forward to what's to come. We're super proud to, still be able to be a little piece of part of it. And yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of hand it off to you to wrap up and leave it from there.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start off, and at the end of the day, I just want to say, to our existing clients, thank you for trusting Thrive. Thank you for giving us your trust and working with us over the years. And we're hoping that we'll be able to keep that trust and build on that, and hopefully do a lot more business together in the future. And to our existing clients, again, thank you for choosing Thrive.
We're just excited for the future and excited to get to know our clients a little bit better and continue to grow and continue to be able to provide the service that they deserve. With that, if there's any questions or anyone has any concerns or anything about process or any ideas, any suggestions, we're here. We want to take all your advice, and we want to kind of continue to grow with you. So we're excited to move forward.
Awesome. Well, it was a great one, and on to the next.